Hey friends, so I've been getting a lot of questions about 2.2 and how the update affects Anton, specifically because I've been saying that he's been getting buffed, and he did. He actually did. But how exactly does the patch affect him? Well, that's what I'm here for. My name is, you can call me Alexander. Thank you for tuning in. So, 2.2, what changed? Well, gameplay and meta-wise, we're getting 2 new characters, and 2 new disc sets, and 2 new engines, and a new Deadly Assault boss. I'm not going to show them for story spoilers, you've probably already seen it anyways, not the story, but the boss. It is electric and physical weak, so that's kind of good for us. I played it just a little bit. We can clear, it's not an issue on that front. Getting a high score, that's a different matter. So, what changed for Anton? Well, let's start with team comps. Orphe's not going to be in any of Anton's best teams, so we can completely skip her. Seed's the character of interest for today. Seed's kit asks that you have a second attack character in the team. More so, it's demanding that you have one. Orphe's the best option, obviously, but most attack agents are going to fill that role, including Anton. Look, Hoyo even mentioned him in their guide on Twitter. That's pretty nice. So he kinda works. Seed's kit wants that attack agent to use her EX special. But that's kind of a problem, and this is going to be a problem that we're going to be talking about a lot today. Anton's EX special is this move. This attack turns on his burst mode. Now if you hit the button again, you get this attack, which looks almost identical, and in practicality it's pretty much identical. But it's not an EX special. I would call it a bug, but it doesn't seem like that's the case. That seems like the way it's programmed, so I don't think Hoyo's going to be nice to us, and if they were going to be nice, I think they would have done it maybe like 6 weeks ago. So, that's not great. That kind of nerfs the Seed synergy a bit, but also it doesn't really matter. If you're going to wheelchair Anton with Seed and Astra, say for example, I don't think this is really stopping you. You're probably going to be able to clear anyways. I just don't think it's fun. I don't think it's interesting. I don't really think we're getting a good use of Anton's kit. I don't really feel like a Anton player, you know? And granted, look, I haven't pulled Seed. I don't really plan on doing so. Nothing against the character, but, you know, I have to choose where I spend my money. And pulling a character just to kind of get similar scores or slightly better and not really have fun doesn't really sound like me. But if you just want to clear with Anton in some capacity, this is a good ticket to do so. If you can't really get any of the teams that I've been showing you to work, and you're looking for a more premium option, go for it. I don't care. You shouldn't have people tell you not to do so. If that's what you want to do with the game and that's how you enjoy it, go for it, by all means. I'm not going to say no to it. I just don't expect me to really post content on it. I don't really find that interesting. Also, with the developments we've been getting in the Grace Anton teams, and by developments I mean I keep realizing it's better than I think it is, constantly. I don't really see a reason to go for Seed, honestly. And I'm struggling to talk about Grace Anton because I keep expecting it to be bad. This is a 1.0 team, realistically. We're swapping Arena out for Yuzuha, and somehow it's working really well. I'm still trying to process this. I don't really know why this works that well. I get that this is part of Anton's kit. He is intended to serve this role. It just has kind of sucked all the time, and now it's kind of good. Honestly, it's really good. We're going to talk about that more later, though. This is getting off topic. And also, if you're going to be pulling a character like Seed, here's what I'm seeing people say about Seed and Seed teams.
I'm gonna say it. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I'm gonna say it. This is literally not me hating. This is me just being completely honest. this is the least amount of fun I'm having with the character in a very, very long time in Zenless Zero. It's been a very long time since I've had this little fun. And I've been content creating for over a year and a half. This is it's been a very long time since I've had this little bit of fun with the character. I'm not enjoying her. Man.
It's not looking great. I'm really not seeing great things. So look, take everything with a grain of salt. If you want to go for it, like, especially if this is a character you're excited for. If this is a character that you've wanted to pull and play, go for it. Especially if you like both of these characters. Get them, play the team. There's a way to make it work. There's some anti-synergy there, but my review on Seed with Anton is that, yes, it works. It is proven to be something that you can do. And if you want to whale, like, absolutely, you can kill bosses if you get, like, seed constellations or support constellations with Anton. I'm not going to do it. But there you go. Now here's the next thing to talk about, disk drive sets. This is a bit more important. This is going to affect all of us. This is the new support set. Are you looking at these stats? This isn't the biggest upgrade in the world, mind you, in terms of the raw stats. We're going from 15% to 18%, which is nice. But the main thing is that this replaces a couple of other support sets, and people were talking about power creep, but here's the realistic thing. Yes, firstly, but secondly, I'm glad. I don't know if you've ran Protopunk Yuzuha. It's miserable. You hit the stun, you hit the parry to get the buff up. You get the stun, and you don't keep the buff enough, long enough to get Anton's ult. It sucks. It's not fun to play. And that's like a Yuzuha specific experience, but say Swing Jazz Nicole. This is more flexible. This is a 25-second duration. Let's keep that in mind as well. This is 10 seconds and this is 15. The duration being extended is really important, and it makes ease of comfort so much better. This is the same thing as when King of the Summit came out, and yes, that is power creep over the original stun set, but I don't care. This is just improving our gameplay experience to a certain degree. That set sucked. This is a better set. We can just farm that set. I know power creep is a thing in terms of HP inflation. Those are the kind of the higher things to talk about. But this makes your old characters better. This is going to make Nicole a little bit better. This is going to make Yuzuha significantly better for these Anton teams. If you what drive sets were you guys running on Yuzuha anyways? I did Protopunk. And there's times where I just didn't bother getting a parry because I just didn't want to bother with that. I was running diskless Yuzuha for a lot of those Yuzuha videos that I was making. You can actually, I was running Freedom Blues now that I think about it. Yeah, that doesn't do anything for an Anton team. This is really helpful. Really, you should get this set for all of your supports. Rena's the one I really don't know about. I don't run Rena. If you're running Rena with Freedom Blues for the sake of keeping shock uptime up for Thunder Metal, I don't know if this is an upgrade. But if you don't need Freedom Blues, yeah, this is probably just an upgrade for you. If you're running Rena on Swing Jazz before, yeah, you should use this instead. I just don't really use Rena anymore, so if you do, you're going to need to farm this set anyways. The rest of your supports are going to use this. But try it out, see if it's good. Let me know if it's good, I'm curious. Or, if you even really used Freedom Blues in the first place, because I don't know about that either. Again, I'm curious. On Astra, this is kind of a side grade. Astral Voice is kind of a better set, purely in terms of stats. But if you can't keep the stacks up, it's not. So I hate using Astral Voice, and this is a great alternative. I'm putting this on my Astra. This might be a downgrade, but I'm going to do it anyways. I also really don't use Astro with Anton because I just don't find that to be fun. But, you know, if you're like die-hard, like QA spammer, or you just use yuzuha with Anton because you know, just want the stat buffs, and she's a great stat buffer, don't get me wrong. But yeah, you know, this could still be an upgrade, or at least a side grade for you. Now, that's all great and good, and you're going to be farming this domain for your supports anyways. So what about Dawn? Is Dawn worth, you know, focusing on for your DPS characters, you know, your attack characters, since this only works on attack characters? Not really, no. Here's the thing with it. Again, you're going to be farming this domain anyways, so you're going to have pieces that are of Dawn. And that's good if you're interested in Dawn, because you would not farm this domain like really any other way. Dawn sucks. This set sucks. To just like put it bluntly. This is good for Seed, and this is, well, we're gonna talk about Anton in a second. Again, this is good for Seed, so there is a character that this is good on. Anton's really the only other character that's kind of in a gray area, because the rest of the attack characters don't want this. They have better options, and it's not conditionally better. Like, there's not a world where you use this over Hormone Punk for Hugo. Even if you don't like running Hormone Punk, and I don't like running Hormone Punk, I run Hormone Punk because what else are you going to do with him? Why are you on-fielding Hugo in the first place? No other character wants this. People talked about, like, say, Soldier 11 and, like, Billy. No. And this is not an upgrade for them. If you're in a situation where you are running this on one of those characters, you really shouldn't. Unless you just, like, say, like, can't farm like Woodpecker and, you know, you're using this over something. And that's kind of the thing with this set. This set is better than nothing. That's its use case scenario, is that if you don't have better options, or you can't farm better options, or you don't, like, you're limited on resources, and you need, like, you're, like, new to the game, and you're farming domains, and, you know, this is the domain you start on, these pieces are fine. And now, you didn't come to this video for me to not talk about Anton, so let's talk Anton. What's the value of Dawn? Well, like I mentioned, it's better than nothing. So that sounds like a horrible appraisal of it, and honestly, it kind of is. However, let's talk into the more details. So, before this patch, Anton had like 3 realistic set options. You have Thunder Metal, you have Hormone Punk, and you have Woodpecker. And you could use like triple 2-piece if you're running QA spam. Congrats, you can do that, I guess. These are your 3 set options with Anton. And Dawn is number 4, which doesn't sound great. And again, it's really not, but we kind of need to go into the weeds about this a little bit more. So let's talk about like a realistic like use case scenario. I uploaded this video a couple weeks, maybe a month or so now, of my Miasmic Priest's clear. And I was running Anton on Thunder Metal with Qingyi and Nicole. Your standard like Anton like burst rotation stun window team. What I realistically thought was like Anton's best team for the longest time, excluding all of the like wheelchair comps, like just purely like focusing on Anton, like his best team for the time. I'm not sure if Grace is like better than that. That's a different conversation. Thunder Metal is the best of these 3 sets when it comes to pure stats. 28% combat attack is a lot of stat. And it's really surprising that it came from 1.0, considering how like a lot of this set like aged. I know all 3 of these are from 1.0, but like this is a really good set. It just requires something from you. It requires an enemy to be shocked. And technically just a enemy, but that's like a really niche scenario again. In a team like Grace Yuzuha, you have infinite uptime on shock. You're running Thunder Metal. But in a team like Qingyi Nicole, that's a lot harder to manage. You have to hope you get shock up just in time for the stun window. and then you have to hope that you don't get corruption. Or you get a disorder, and that just ruins the shock. And if you can't get a shock off, you're not running a 4-piece effect. You could just be running 2 pieces and technically get more mileage off of that. So, in a situation like that, then what do you do? Well, Hormone Punk is a good set. 25% combat attack is almost 28, and you don't need to rely on shock windows. So you can just use that. Well, here, this is the same run. In this run, this happens. And this isn't like just like a weird like special attack that happens occasionally. No, you know, this is a core mechanic of the fight. You're gonna have to parry a lot. In this fight, swapping to Anton is kind of forced. By going on field with him to get that parry, you are triggering Hormone Punk. And that does mean that you don't really have full control of when it's up. You're going based off of the attack pattern of the enemy. And sure, you can not swap into Anton, but you're losing out on decibels. You want your ult up as much as possible, especially on your DPS. Especially on Nicole too as well, because you're getting like energy back from that, and that's more important the more we talk about this engine in a little bit. But, you know, let's just say we put that aside, and you're willing to just not swap into Anton, you use your Qingyi and your Nicole, and you're perfect about it. And that's not exactly an easy task. You got to make sure that you're pairing with exactly those characters and you're getting the full mileage out of that, but if you're able to do it, sure. You can do that, and you can only swap into Anton whenever you're ready to use the set effect. So here's the thing with that. Since you're restricting yourself to not using parries, and this isn't just this boss fight, mind you, like, this boss fight does require you to do parries. But parries are also just a core mechanic of the game. You get a lot of mileage out of each parry you do. You get decibels, you get energy back on Anton specifically. You get some damage. So you want to be doing those whenever you get the chance, and not having to keep track of your like damage windows in your head. Maybe that's not for you. Maybe you don't want to have to run maybe you don't want to run a disc effect that is restricting how you play the game. Or at least not to this level, because this is a lot of like mental calculations. Or there's a lot of elements to that. And if that isn't for you, so you have one last option. It's Woodpecker. So Woodpecker's your general DPS set, right? Here's its stats, and yeah, it's alright, and that's kind of the thing. It's just an alright set. It's like the first disc set you get. But look at these, and if you activate everything, you get 27% combat attack, which is great. That's 1% off Thunder Metal, and we talked about how good that is. But you remember that thing I talked about earlier about EX Special? Hey, you really don't get any uptime on that. Those 6 seconds aren't useful. So you're getting 18% combat attack. Well, you're getting 18% assuming the enemy's attacking you. Well, we usually use Anton for stun windows, right? So you're getting 9% combat attack. Shouldn't you just run triple 2-piece at that point? I mean, I don't know if this is really better than that. But it's really not a disc set at this point, is it? But hey, you know, it's better than nothing. Well, do you remember what I said earlier about Dawn? Yeah, this is better than nothing squared. This is better than nothing too. This is the use case scenario for Dawn. When you're looking at your options and you're like maybe running into difficulty using any of the good disc sets, you can use Dawn. If you're running Qingyi Nicole and you're realizing that you can't get any of the good sets to activate, you're gonna use Dawn. If you're running an unorthodox team that can't get shock up and you gotta be like parrying that fight, you're gonna be running Dawn. Or you probably should be running Dawn. Even assuming that like the stun mechanic got taken out of the game, and you have access to woodpecker, this might still be better. You can't get that third stack. You get limited uptime on the second stack. And we're going to talk about the engine a little bit more later. But his basic attacks are becoming more of his damage because of that engine. Assuming you're running Anton's new engine, and you don't have to be, but if you are running the engine, this becomes more of an option the more you think about it. Again, this set is bad. This is 50% basic attack damage, and only basic attack damage. That does not apply to the rest of his kit. That does not apply to other characters' kits. This is pure basic attack damage. This also requires you to do like an EX special, which means that this is going to have kind of not great uptime for 20% of this. So sometimes it's 30%, sometimes it's 50%. Again, really not great for Anton. It is still better than nothing. And I'm going to try out like pure basic attack rotations. And we're going to see if this is decent for that at the very least. Because, you know, if I cut out like the chain attacks and I just purely go basic, maybe we get some good mileage out of this. I don't know. But I'm testing it. And I'm certainly going to do it when other people are just going to say no and move on. Especially the people that don't play Anton. They're just going to tell you that he does QA damage. And there's an important thing that we need to talk about when it comes to really the gacha game space and options. Because a lot of people always run off of the best case scenario. A little heads up, this game is really damn easy. Like, gacha games can get really bad. Star Rail has really bad power creep. I left that game. Genshin has gotten bad power creep. I still kind of play, but I don't play often. This game's power creep really hasn't gotten that bad. We have a couple notable exceptions, and most characters are really high up, and the bad characters, like Anton, I'm still doing really well with. There's very few incomplete characters. We're completely fine. This is not a hard enough game where we need to min-max everything. Now, granted, you shouldn't be going for like the worst options possible, but let's acknowledge that this thing has a use. It's a tool in his toolkit, and we're better off at least thinking of it as a possibility in case it comes up. If we get like a random deadly assault buff, and it gives basic attacks 100 crit damage and 500% attack, or some ridiculous scenario like that, hey, look at this disc set again. Give it a try. There is going to be times where you do off-meta things because something has changed in the meta, or something is more relevant now. Or maybe there's an engine that gives you 20% def shred on your basic attacks. We'll talk about that in a minute. Also, if you thought any of my earlier examples were like a stretch case scenario, it's not. I referenced that priest run for a reason. It's been playing in the background most likely, but take a look at it again. I get the first two rotations fine. On this third rotation, we miss the shock. We corruption. And that triggers disorder, and now my shock's down. On my fourth stun, I can't get the shock up in time. I don't have any more time to try to farm anything else. The run's ending. And I just have to eat it and finish the run. This is my best run on Priest. And I got it after many hours of trying. Like, let me make that clear. This wasn't like my first attempt. This was like my 200th attempt. I was ripping my hair out a little bit. I don't really like the AI on this fight. And I had to eat the run with my disc set down for half of my damage. Maybe you run Hormone Punk? I'm not running Hormone Punk. Maybe you run Woodpecker. I think I would have gotten less damage. The disc set was effectively halved because I only had it for 2 of my stun windows. Maybe this would have been better. Maybe this is better. I'm going to farm it, we're going to try it out, and I'm going to report back later when I have more conclusive evidence. So that's Dawn. Should you farm it? Well, you should farm that domain. You need the pieces for your supports anyways. Should you farm Dawn? I still don't think so. But you should save the good pieces that you get and don't immediately trash them. even if you don't plan on pulling seed, at the very least, if you're playing Anton, probably save the pieces. If we get a good use case scenario, run it. Give it a try. I'm going to give it a try at the very least. And maybe we get a new character in the future that works really well with the set. Maybe Minato works with this set. Maybe someone else does. I don't think he actually does. I'm saying think here. Again. So, who knows? Save the pieces at the very least. Or at least the good ones. You don't have to save the bad ones, of course. I've been talking kind of circles around it. Let's actually talk about it. We need to talk about this thing. This is Anton's S-rank engine. Yeah, sure, it's technically seeds. But realistically, we're not going to get an engine that's more catered to us than this engine. And we might get like power creep in the future if they just start like giving out engines that give 48% crit rate and 100% crit damage, and we get like bad power creep. Maybe that happens, and that makes this irrelevant. But until like something catastrophic like that happens, I'm not going to plan around the world ending. This is his best engine for the foreseeable future. We can use every single line in this limited S-rank engine. That 39% crit rate? Sure, I'm not overcapping. Let's use it. You have to adjust your builds a little bit because you probably are going to have too much crit rate by a decent margin. Sorry, if you just swap your engine right now for this build. I know I had to move my builds around. I lost like 30% crit damage. It's fine. We get 25% electric damage. I'm running like slot 5 attack on Anton, so that's really helpful. And that's applying to all of his damage. That 20% def shred is kind of the tricky part. So this doesn't apply to the specials, that doesn't matter. The only thing that he's missing on this is that it doesn't apply to his chain attacks. If you see my Anton runs, you know his chain attack hits for 1,000,000 damage in Deadly Assault. Yeah, that thing about Anton not doing damage outside of his quick assist, again, that's funny. His chain attack hits for 1,000,000 damage. If you do double chain attack, you get 2,000,000 damage off of it. And that's honestly still the case. Like, the crit damage we lose gets made up for by that electric damage buff. I actually am doing slightly more damage on my chain attack than I was previously. That's the thing with this engine. It's really just an upgrade if you can manage the stacks. If you can keep your buff up time, this is an upgrade just like through and through. Here, I've been playing some of my recent clears on Typhon, and I had a hard-fought 45k. A hard-fought 45k. And my recording messed up 3 times. So you had a 44k run for the video. I'm getting 46ks, just trying to get a better run. And I finally hit 47k. And this is like the video on it. If you compare, the chain attack damage is a good place to start. Looking purely at chain attack damage, we're doing slightly more. That's not a big upgrade. But the basic and the ultimate that have that 20% defense shred, that's big. Let's use another example. Priest, again, using the run that I did earlier, that 27k run, here's the damage I'm doing on this first stun rotation. Here's the damage I'm doing now. He doesn't have minus 20% electric resistance. He has 0. These numbers are looking a little bit bigger, aren't they? This is noting to be a bit more of an increase now. I feel like the more we stack up on buffs, the less the defense shred matters. But on an enemy like this, that feels decently tanky, especially on a team like this, and I've used purely this team, like not even talking about Grace stuff, to just try and give like a controlled experiment. This is good. For disclosure, I am using Nicole on the new disc set, but this is good. That's another 1,000 points of damage on this first stun rotation. Again, this is a notable upgrade. And the more your team is focusing on Anton's damage, the bigger that these damage numbers get. If I'm remembering correctly, because I don't have the footage right in front of me, that was like 100k per like ultimate tick, like more. That's almost another Thunder Medal. Like, yeah, this is good stuff. So what you're hearing is that you should pull the engine, right? No, not really. Here's the thing. Things are more complicated than they appear, really, in everything in life. So, we need to talk about this. EX Special is hard to use on Anton. We keep talking about this, but this was kind of their way to try and limit Anton. Whether it's intentional or not, maybe they don't think about him at all. EX Special, again, is this move. And this is the move that gets him the stack for the engine. Is that you have to use this move and you have to hit an enemy. But again, using this move doesn't give him a stack. So what do we do then? It's not easy, it's not fun, but we change our rotation a bit. So here's how you play with the new engine. So, whenever you, like, let's say, let's start a Deadly Assault run. And depending on the situation, whenever you need to start doing damage with Anton, you're going to pull him out and you're going to hit that EX Special. And then when you do that, you're going to attack with a basic attack. You can kind of swap the order if you want to. Now that you have your stacks up, play the rotation how you want, do whatever you need to. Do make sure that you have your abilities up ready in time for the stun window. You don't want to run out of these stacks when you're in the stun window, of course. And then once you're in stun and you do your rotation, get rid of that fucking energy. Get rid of it. You want to just dump that stuff out, and you just want to put it into the enemy. Realistically, you want to run out of energy, like, just slightly after, like, the stun window ends, so you can get a little bit more damage out. Try and see if you can squeeze out some more, like, Anton field time. It's fun to do that with, like, Grace. You can get some more damage in. So go, attack, dump your energy out, and get it out of his system. You want a clear energy bar. Now, for this next part, you really need a support. If for some reason you are not running a support with Anton, especially when this disc set just came out, you're running a support with Anton with Ascension. And you're going to pop their ult now. Now that you've ran out of energy, immediately pop that ult. Unless for some reason it's conflicting with, like, an enemy's rotation. Again, a lot of this stuff is situational. You need to apply this information to the fight that you're currently in. When you run out of Anton's energy, you pop your support's ult to give him that energy back. So you're going to swap Anton in, claim that energy, and the interesting thing when it comes to this as well is that you want energy with Anton, especially, like, with this engine. You want to burn your energy and then get it back so you can use that EX Special again. So you're getting this, like, constant, like, flux of energy, like, in and out. You can run, like, a plus 20% energy 2-piece. Yeah, this is also a part of the current domain with the new support set, so you could run a 2-piece of that. You could run a 2-piece Swing Jazz. The main reason I say that is that your first rotation will usually have a lot of energy in it, so that's more energy you need to dump out of Anton's drill. So it does help you get it back later. You are going to be losing out on damage, of course. Grace's Mindscapes that also give energy are also very helpful for this. I haven't played... Well, of course, I haven't played an M0 Grace with this team because that's not what I have on my account. So I don't know how much it's helping, but I assume it's helping a little bit, so that's a very good Mindscape to have. So, that's the rotation with the new engine. That's what your gameplay is going to be looking like if you pull for it and if you put it on Anton. You don't have to do it, but that's the most optimal way that I found to do it, and I think that's realistically just how you play it now. If you don't mind doing that, or if you don't really have a rotation that you favored, were just kind of doing anything, maybe you just go for it. Here's the tricky thing about recommending this engine. Yes, this is Anton's best engine. I can say that confidently. But that's really the only way you get that without having, like, this engine. Like, purely base kit Anton. And you can get defense shred from other sources. Nicole gives 40%. Trigger gives 25% if you have her engine. Grace even gives 8.5% for electric damage on Mindscape 2, I believe. So you have these extra little sources of defense shred that you can get to like add up. And this is going to get better with time, most likely. I need a preface because of rupture agents being a thing, and their selling point is kind of that they can just ignore defense. We're going to get higher defense enemies. I'm very certain of that. And as we get higher defense enemies, defense shred is going to get better. Now, of course, with the rupture agents, you know, likely just getting stronger over time, how much that helps is going to vary. I don't know how much that's going to be the case, but definitely the effectiveness of defense shred will go up if that happens. So this is helpful, even if it's 20% on a higher defense enemy, and maybe if Nicole gets even stronger because of this, now you have 60% defense shred on 2 of your main skills, over 40%. I'm not saying this is making Anton meta, I'm mostly just saying that this will help us with the coming tide, assuming this is the case, and I feel like it's very likely. So, keep that in mind. Now, when we talk about pulling this engine, again, very good for Anton, but should you pull for it? Well, if you want the best for your Anton, sure, go for it. But I'm not going to go into this assuming that everyone is a complete, like, diehard, like, Anton fan. Maybe you just like the guy, maybe you just play him. Maybe you're here just because you like the sound of using an A-rank character, and guys, this game is easy. A reminder, this game is really easy. Play the characters you like. But that aside, in terms of account value, in terms of usability of this engine, you are using this engine for Anton, and you're using this engine for Seed, and you're not using this engine for any other characters. Electric Attack is one of the most oversaturated types in the game. We're probably not seeing another one for a while, and if we do, they're probably not going to have a kit that lends itself so well to this engine. And B is probably getting a rework very soon. You can maybe count that. Again, she has her own engine, though. Maybe you can use this for that. I really don't know. It depends on how they rework her. We don't even have, like, future predictions on that, so I really don't know. So that's one thing. Another thing is you really shouldn't pull for this engine assuming any other characters would be able to use it in the future. So you need to pull based on, do you want to buff specifically for Anton and specifically for Seed? And if you're not playing Seed, you're pulling this for Anton. That's not exactly great use for your budget. Again, take, for example, Haramasa's engine I mentioned earlier. When I pulled it, it was a pretty solid stat stick, and it's still not a bad stat stick. But it's kind of gotten power crept. It's still good for Haramasa, but Hugo and Evelyn got engines after that. And when I got Hugo's engine, I stopped using Haramasa's, because Hugo's engine is just a better stat stick. Numerically, it's just better. And if you look purely just at the crit stats, Evelyn's engine is slightly better as a stat stick than Hugo's. It came out first, I just didn't get it. And Miyabi's engine is really good for these characters that can't run a same type engine that would benefit themselves. Like, say, Ben, if you're playing DPS Ben. That's a great stat stick for a character like that. And that's very unlikely to get power crept because they gave that thing additional buffs. It has the highest base attack for some fucking reason. So that's a thing. Looking purely at Seed's engine, it's 39% crit rate, which is less crit value than some of these other engines. Definitely the engines that I'm talking about, you're losing that crit value because it's just 39% crit rate, 78% crit value. Sure, that's less than some of these other ones. And it's crit rate. That's the thing. Crit rate caps out. You can get crit rate from external sources. Nicole gives you 15%. Anton gives himself 10%. And Anton gives the team 10%, just to clarify as well. You get crit rate from a lot of sources too. Some characters just come with like 50% crit rate. This isn't going to be a great like engine for a lot of characters, especially if you like cap out on crit rate. Like you might just get buffs and some content that just give you like 20% crit rate. This is not a great stat stick. So keep that in mind. The value on this account is, again, really just for your Anton. Do you want an engine that purely buffs your Anton's damage? And I talk about Anton's damage too, and it's noticeable. Again, look at these clips, look at these numbers. These are good numbers. These are really satisfying numbers to look at. And I can feel the damage increase. Now look at the scores. Remember when I was talking about Typhon? And we went from like a rough 45 to like a feasible 47. It took some work. I'm not gonna lie, it did take some work. But that's like a 2,000 to 3,000 point increase. And it does add a little bit of extra work that you have to do. And that's not something that's visible all the time. But even when I'm getting these stronger damage numbers, they don't always come across in the score. Although, again, I need to restate this. This is an easy game. We're looking at min-maxing a character that's not fantastic, but not nearly as bad as anyone says he is. Sorry. I do better with Anton than some of these characters do with, like, their dedicated mains. So, again, no hate to anyone, but he's really not as bad as people make him out to be. And he's better now. Like, that's just the thing. He is just better now. When I talk about all of this, I'm not doing it to, like, be like, oh, you should, but you shouldn't, and, like, yeah, it's just a little, like, wishy-washy. I want to talk about all of the different, like, intricacies and nuances when it comes to a decision like this. There's a lot of people that want to put out these 10-minute videos and just kind of briefly run over everything, and then talk about how this changes everything and then leave out 3 characters out of the cast. No hate to anyone, but I want to talk about this specifically when I'm making recommendations or telling people here's what the effects are. And even still, when I talk about all this, and I've yapped for like an entire hour now, I'm gonna have to cut this down in post. Even still, there's a lot I still haven't explored. This whole engine, like, is a big buff for Anton's basics and his ult. And we have a disc set that just came out that buffs basic attack damage. And I don't know how well they interact, and how well the rotations work with this set lineup, because I haven't gotten to test it yet. There's a lot I have to do. I have a job. I don't get paid for this at all. Subscribe if you want me to get paid. I have a tip jar, by the way. But I do this just out of a little bit of spite and a little bit of feeling like I'm crazy when I just like hear like all of this various yap about nothing. And step by step, if no one's going to talk about it, I'm going to talk about it. So, I've yapped for a while. We're over an hour now. In summary, Seeds Engine is Anton's best option. If you want the best for your Anton, pull it. Get it. But make sure, when you do so, that the pulls that you spend on this engine are not going to another character. Do not expect them to go to any other character unless you think you might get Seed or get Seed in the future. Otherwise, understand that you're pulling an engine specifically for Anton, and that you're really not going to use it for anything else, or you most likely won't use it for anything else. With that in mind, if that's what you care about, if you just want to maximize your damage for Anton, and that's why you're here, that's your best option. Understand how your rotations are going to change, how you need to play around it, potential changes to your builds that you need to make, and run with it. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm going to be doing from here on out. I'm going to be playing with this engine, and I doubt I'm going to be changing off of it. And that's all I have for today. While I'm here and while you're hearing my voice, since this is the first time I'm making actual content with my voice, let me know if it sounds good, if I need to change anything. This is the first time I've ever done this. And it's not going to be the last. I am planning on making another video soon, talking about Anton misconceptions. There's probably too much I yapped about in this video that might not have made it in the video. And I'm probably going to put some of it at the end here, or I might just save it for that other recording in that other video. But that's going to be coming up soon, because I've got a lot of thoughts on that. And we do have the Anton like full guide coming out later, Also, if you're new around here, I don't purely focus on Anton. This has just been an Anton like renaissance. But to some degree, it's partially me finding things that other people have found that I haven't really like taken a look at until now. But you know, we're here. This is what we're doing. So that's what I've been focusing on right now. But I like Belobog as a whole. I'm not just playing Grace because she's a decent Anton support. I'm playing Grace because I like Grace. I'm playing Kaleda because I like Kaleda. I'm still going to be running Kaleda. I'm going to play other characters I like. I know Monato's an A-rank character. We're going to hit stupid numbers with him. Just wait for that. You're going to hear plenty of content creators tell you that this character is meh. And this character is. And that this character is fine. And that this character is okay for now. And I'm not gonna sound excited. And if you're a fan of that character, or if you want to play something different, don't doom post them. Get out there and make them work. If you want a character to be good so bad, do it.